Here we have the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. Now the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3 is effectively a watered down version of their Legion series gaming laptops. But what we want to find out today is if the IdeaPad Gaming 3 can compete with its stronger brothers and sisters, if it's better than the Dell G15 specifically, and maybe if you should buy one yourself. Let's get some specs out of the way really quick. This laptop can be had for under $1,100 as configured with a 2TB NVMe solid state drive, 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, an RTX 3050 graphics card with 4 gigabytes of video RAM, and also has Radeon graphics. When you're not using the powerful graphics, it can switch over to Radeon graphics to save you a little bit of battery life. And it also has the AMD Ryzen 5 6600H processor. All in all, as far as specs are concerned, this thing gets a 5 out of 5. You can buy the IdeaPad Gaming 3 and it's sort of like 256 NVMe and I think like 8 gig of RAM version for about $700. And ultimately, as far as specs are concerned, the price to performance ratio is outstanding. So we give it a 5 out of 5. Now, while we are on the subject of specs, it comes with a 15.6 inch full high definition non-touch IPS display. It is 250 nits brightness. It is mostly pretty color accurate. We did find a little bit of oddities in terms of its ability to move between cool and warm colors. But ultimately, it is a really nice display with not a lot of backlight bleed, good solid blacks, good bright whites. 250 nit brightness is not outstanding, and it also only has about a 120 hertz screen as far as gaming performance is concerned. So if you are a gamer looking for the most up-to-date LCD panel you can buy, this is definitely not it. But again, if you're gonna be buying a Lenovo Legion that has let's say the 165 hertz panel in it, also they're a little bit brighter, a little bit more color accurate, you're also going to be spending quite a bit more money. So in terms of bang for your buck, the LCD screen gets a 3 out of 5. It's probably more like a 4 out of 5. Ultimately, you're not buying it for the LCD, but this is definitely going to get the job done for some good, pleasurable gaming. Keyboard on it gets a 4 out of 5. It is tactile, it is responsive, it is accurate. You can type very, very fast on it. Lenovo did a good job shaping the keys. They're all sort of ergonomic and placed in the right position. I don't know what it is with Lenovo keyboards. They do make different size keyboards depending on the model that you buy. Basically, some key caps are a little bit wider than others and in different shapes, but it has the infamous caps look button on it. It also has a backlight, which is really, really nice. Full size for number entry and stuff like that. WASD are not highlighted for gamers, although I don't know most gamers that actually really care about that. And there is no RGB to speak of. And that actually goes for the entire aesthetic of the laptop in general. This is much more of a business professional's gaming laptop than it is a fancy RGB, let me show off at the next convention type gaming laptop. So ultimately, it is a nice looking design and the keyboard is good and accurate, but it doesn't have any kind of fancy colors or anything on that. Trackpad on it is also about a 4 out of 5. It is also very accurate. It's also kind of a decent size. Left and right clicks distinguish very well, has multi-gesture support. Ultimately, it's probably even airing closer to the 5 out of 5. The thing is most gaming laptops don't have the best trackpads on them. They tend to kind of because ultimately most gamers are not using the trackpads. They also make them a little bit smaller so there's less accidental palm input and stuff like that. So yeah, trackpad on here is really pretty stellar. It is a little bit better on this than it is on the Dell, and for that matter, I believe the HP as well. So ultimately, if you do game with a trackpad, which I don't recommend, you'll like this one better than you like the other ones. I/O on the computer gets a 4 out of 5. On this side, we have, no, it's all on this computer, it's 360 degrees worth of I/O. So on this side, you have the USB Type A super speed port. You've got just some nice little fans to vent out all of the heat and everything. And then on the opposing side, you've got your TRRS headphone microphone jack. And you've also got another USB Type A port. And then on the back of it is where all the magic happens. You've got an HDMI 2.0. You've got a USB-C 3.2 Generation 1 that cannot handle displays, but it does handle power. It also handles 5 gigabytes per second data rates. Got another, you got a gigabit Ethernet port, and then you have where you plug it in. Because it doesn't run on solar energy. But ultimately, the I/O on it is pretty fantastic. About the only thing that it is missing is maybe a camera card reader. I think that, if you're buying this thing to do maybe audio production as well as a little bit of gaming and some professional activities, then this thing is really gonna be perfect in terms of I/O. The Dell G15 does have an extra USB Type-A port on it. The Asus come with a camera card, so that's kind of nice. So really about the only thing missing from this laptop is maybe like Thunderbolt 4, and again, maybe a camera card reader, but ultimately I/O on it is solid, so we don't really think people are going to want for more, but we also don't think that it's fair to penalize it for being the price bracket that it is and the I/O that it delivers, and especially for the audience that it is catered to. But where we can penalize it is on these speakers. They do get a 3 out of 5, and one thing I'm very impressed with about the speakers on here is that they don't advertise some nonsense BS like it's got Dolby Audio, surround, or Bang & Olufsen special speakers. No, they're just unbranded crappy speakers, and that's really refreshing. They are good for listening to podcasts. You can maybe listen to a movie or something with friends kind of surrounding this thing, but ultimately you are not going to want to like game with these speakers. You're also not going to want to listen to any kind of like high fidelity music. You will want a set of external speakers or headphones for that. They don't have a whole lot of bass. They do get decent mids and lows with not a whole lot of distortion, but there's just not a whole lot of character. And while they get kind of medium well done loud, they don't quite hit the loudness that you would want. So speakers, 3 out of 5, they are okay. Features on this computer: it has Wi-Fi 6, it has Bluetooth, it has a little webcam at the top with a privacy shutter built in case you don't want an OnlyFans page while you're gaming. And the webcam footage on here, it's okay. It will definitely be okay for like an office setting, but you're definitely not gonna wanna like stream on Twitch or something with it. You'll probably want a higher fidelity camera for that. But here is an example of what the footage looks like now. This is a test of the webcam on the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. It is certainly usable for business applications. However, it really could do to be a little bit better. It only has a 120 Hz screen in it, whereas some of its competitors like the HP Victus and the Asus come with 144 Hz screens. And of course, the Lenovo Legions come with 165 Hz screens. So it can also switch between Radeon graphics and then the RTX 3050 in order to kind of save you some battery life, which of course the battery life we will get into here in a few minutes. But feature-wise, it's okay. You know, it's a little bit watered down, but that's kind of what you expect when buying this notebook. Still, it is awarded a 3 out of 5. And then as far as mobility is concerned, the plastics on here are a little bit cheaper than desired. The screen, the hinges, for example, are a little bit loose and a little bit wobbly, and ultimately the build quality could feel a little bit better. Battery life is like a paltry, probably like 4 hours practically, but again, when you're buying this notebook, you're not buying it to travel with. This thing is really going to be sort of sitting on your desk as a like gaming kind of laptop. And then of course, as far as like travelability, that's even a real word, it's like, you know, it's not very light and thin, but and again, you're not buying it for that. You're buying it for like, you know, some casual gaming and some like desktop productivity type work. So ultimately, mobility gets a 3 out of 5. They didn't innovate anywhere in terms of its form factor, size, shape, or anything like that. It is just a hair lighter and thinner than the Dell, but again, most people are not going to care one way or the other. That brings the total score of this laptop to like a 3.62. Some things are a little bit better than others. And again, that's kind of like a B-ish score. I mean, ultimately, it is better than average, and you do get a lot of bang for your buck. And that's why you're buying this laptop. You're buying it because you want some power on a budget. Ultimately, there's no, you know, frills like RGB and crazy lights and all of the sort of Alienware or Legion aesthetic. No, it is just sort of a nice, simple gaming laptop that you can really like deck out to the brim and kind of make this thing, you know, perform and act exactly how you need it to with some casual gaming. As far as benchmarks are concerned, you know, we're just gonna go ahead and roll right over to some B-roll on the benchmarks on this thing. Score on 1080p high with superposition yielded a 6585 on the IdeaPad Gaming 3, and on 3 Mark, Time Spy got us graphics of 4788, CPU of 7033, a total of 5028. And as far as the average FPS is concerned, we got a 31 and a 27 respectively. So, you know, ultimately these are pretty solid scores for this computer. You know, again, I think for what you're paying for, these are really not too bad. So for those of you who are buying this notebook, you obviously know what those benchmarks stand for, so we won't get into any kind of explanations as to what they mean. Suffice to say, this thing is powerful and can really hold its own. It's fast, it's quick, it's a nice computer. And serviceability on this thing is outstanding too. All right, so here we have the inside of the Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming 3. So you've got room for another DDR5 card if you wanted to put up to 64 gigs in there. That's kind of nice. Very serviceable battery. You've got an NVMe slot right there. This one's got 2 terabytes, but you can add more if desired. There's also room for another NVMe right there. And as you can see, this actually shares the motherboard with the Legion series. So even though it is an IdeaPad Gaming 3, it is basically just a Legion laptop with some slightly watered down features. There's even the little RGB connector right there. So that's kind of fun. But ultimately, serviceability is good. You've got a sister board for the USB right there. Power is soldered onto the board here. So if there's a problem with your connector, you're gonna hurt a little bit, but that said, you could always switch to the USB charger if you need to. So ultimately, serviceability on this thing is pretty solid, and especially considering the LCD screen can be swapped out as well, we're gonna go ahead and rate the serviceability on this pretty high. Who is this computer for? It is for the casual, I'm gonna try to do like a Jay Peterman here. The Lenovo IdeaPad Gaming is for the casual gamer that likes to go from home desktop to business without making a scene. It is for the unostentatious user who likes to make no statements, who is the understated gamer of the century. This is why they didn't hire me. So anyway, yeah, it's not really for Photoshop people. It's not really for heavy duty video editors, although you can absolutely do video editing such as Twitch, YouTube, that kind of stuff on here. It is powerful enough to do some great games at medium to ultra settings, depending on what you're buying, playing Minecraft, Roblox, RDR2, that kind of thing. And you could also do some audio production work on this thing too. It's also really, really great for CAD work. So basically, if you're gonna be using this thing for belting out like CAD drawings and architecture and that kind of stuff, I think this is really, really going to be a great option. A lot of storage, a lot of power. Anyway, that is the IdeaPad Gaming 3 laptop. We highly recommend it. It is a good computer, especially for the price, and we think if you buy one, you will be happy with it. It should be a good, reliable companion. We hope this video was helpful. Please like and subscribe. Please tell your friends, and we will be back with another video really soon.